I'm the oldest, right? I'm bossy. But I always felt like I was on the periphery, looking in, watching other people live their lives. And I felt like I had to meet all these high expectations in order to be good enough. And really I wanted someday my biological family out there to see me somewhere doing something and going, oh my gosh, we gave her away. And look what she grew up to become.
We're so excited to have our guest, our very special guest, Tami Tran, with us.
Thank you.
Tami is the mayor of Kaysville, Utah. How big is Kaysville?
Kaysville is about 33,000 people.
33,000 people. Is that northern Utah?
It is.
Is it considered northern Utah?
It is. It's north of Salt Lake City.
North of Salt Lake City, northern Utah. And we're so excited. Like, she's a semi-celebrity here in Utah, right? She's so humble. Here's a cool story. I actually was invited on Tammy's podcast.
Yes, we're
as a guest. So that's how we got to know her. What's the name of your podcast?
Happy, Grateful, Blessed.
Happy, Grateful,
with Tami Tran.
Yep.
But thank you for being on my podcast.
Yeah. Tell me real quick, why did you name it Happy, Grateful, Blessed? I love the title.
It's they're my three buzzwords. I just think I want to focus on being happy. I am super grateful for my life, and I really feel like I've got a blessed life. It's not perfect, but it's blessed. And so I'm grateful for that. My kids think it's really corny, told me I should change it. But I also didn't want it to be only political or only, work or I wanted to be able to talk to lots of people about whatever I felt like
I love it.
doing. So
I love it. So for people that don't know who you are, give us a little bit of background about who you are. I know as a public figure, you can go to certain websites where you kind of had to publicly say, this is who I am, right? But for our guests, maybe give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Okay. I was born in Seoul, Korea, and adopted when I was about 18 months old by a wonderful, incredible family from Utah. So I'm the eldest of 5 children. My parents they adopted me, adopted a sister that's not biological, and then they had 3 children. Wow. And that was because they had a hard time having children to begin with. And so grew up in mostly Utah County and, had interesting experiences there. My husband and I met when I was pretty young. I was attending BYU. I was 19. And he had a family in Vietnam and wanted to sponsor them over. He'd been sponsored as a child, as a refugee, by a great family in West Bountiful. And he'd worked on their paperwork for years and years and sent money and saved money by himself to try to sponsor his family. Sent the money to Vietnam, and the government said, we don't have your application. My mom heard about this when I was dating Lee, and she said, that's not right. We were going to fix this. So she said, we're calling Senator Hatch's office. And we did it, and his staff got on it, and we were able to support and sponsor all 7 of my husband's family members at the same time, which was very unique because the law passed later that month that you can only do 2 family members at a time.
That's incredible.
So did they live with your family?
Well, they lived. We had a 2-bedroom apartment in Bountiful.
Okay.
So some of them lived with us. Some lived with my husband's sponsor family that adopted him, and then we just made it work for a couple years, and so that's kind of how it started.
Wow.
And then I decided, political advocates can really be helpful, and so got involved as a planning commissioner when we had little kids. And my husband said, "Okay, Tami, we've got little kids. We're trying to start a business. Maybe don't also do planning commission." And so I said, "Okay." So I served a term as a planning commissioner, raised our kids, started our business, circled back to it, and now I'm being crazy.
Yeah. And now you started a podcast?
I started a podcast with a friend probably 10 years ago, and we're focusing on businesses. And then she said, my daughter's my business partner, so maybe she and I should do the podcast. And so I said, oh, okay, fine. Kind of felt like I was podcast dumped a little bit, but she's a wonderful lady. But it really got me excited about maybe doing something that I could control and handle and do myself. So, yeah. And
so how many kids do you have?
We have 2. We have 2 adult children. They're both married to incredible people, super grateful for their spouses. And we have 3 grandchildren now.
Oh, fun.
So
we all live close?
They do. Our oldest little granddaughter is 4, and our youngest is a little boy, and he's almost 2. And then my son has another daughter that's, 18 months. I probably got that wrong. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, they live close by, which is really nice.
Oh, that's so great.
So did I catch your husband was also adopted?
He was adopted as an adult.
Okay.
So we sponsored his biological family, and then his grandma and his mom really wanted Lee to be part of their genealogy and for family history. And it was awkward saying, well, this is my foster son, yet he's actually, we love him, he's my son. And so we sponsored my husband's family over first because they were the immediate biological relatives. And then his grandma said, we really want Lee to be part of our family forever. And his family, his biological family, they're not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints like we are. And we said, are you okay with Lee being adopted? And they said, sure, we're family. We don't care. And so as an adult, they adopted Lee.
Oh, that's wonderful. Great story. So real quick, you went to BYU. Did you get your degree? What was it in?
So I did attend BYU. I was trying to be a political science major. I was planning to go to law school. But when I was 20 and we decided to sponsor my husband's family, we had to prove that we could financially support them. Because back then you had to sign forms that said you were financially responsible, no government aid, no public assistance was available. So I did quit BYU. I had to work a couple jobs. My husband worked a couple jobs, and our families helped us by donating a car and helping with housing. And so I did not finish at BYU. That is something I will do someday. I've gone back over the years and taken classes, but then life just has gotten really busy. So
yeah. How long have you been mayor, and for how many terms?
So I'm serving my second term as mayor. I served one term, which was 4 years, and then my second term started this year. So I ran for mayor last year and realized this year that Senator Stevenson, who's our state senator in my district, decided to retire, and thought, oh, gosh, I kind of want to run for Senate, only because I've seen a lot of interesting things happen as I've served my city as a mayor, and I really believe in local control and protecting some constitutional freedoms and values that I really hold dear. So this opportunity to run for an open seat occurred, and so I'm a candidate as well right now.
Wow. That's
Mhm.
pretty cool. When's that election?
So we went through caucus and convention. I did not win 70% there, so I have a Republican primary, which is June 23rd,
Okay.
and then a November general
Gotcha.
election.
Okay,
Mhm.
gotcha.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know. That's good.
Really big.
It is. You guys, it's crazy.
Not like you're like is not busy. I have to ask, personality wise, do you have a little bit like, are you not able to relax? Like, are you always go, go, go?
Do you have a hobby?
You're very accomplished and very busy, and maybe you just don't like to relax. I don't know.
My husband was telling me, he said, Tammy, this weekend, because it's kind of been an intense week, he said, just turn your phone off and just, let's just go do something fun. But really, the way I relax is by doing stuff that's interesting, even though it's stressful. I really like politics. I like the whole rigmarole of it. I like campaigning, even though it's stressful.
Yeah.
So I think to relax and turn my phone off would be more stressful. That FOMO. I guess I'm addicted a little bit to the adrenaline.
Yeah. Good for you.
Which is sad for my kids, though, because my kids have said, okay, now you're Nana. You really should chill. So I'm really trying to balance that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So as we discussed with the pre-interview, I guess, before the podcast started, we're really excited for today's episode about, finding identity, finding belonging, finding your family. And to Kristen and I, this is a very relevant conversation. We mentioned to you, a lot of our audience knows we fostered 8 children over how many years?
Over 5 years. 8, yep, and ended up adopting 2 of the 8. We thought we were going to adopt 2 others.
Really? Oh, I bet that was heart-wrenching.
It was heartbreaking to lose those 2, but we do have 2. But recently our 9-year-old daughter has been asking so many questions about her biological mom and what does she look like, and I want to see a picture. And just a couple weeks ago she asked, can I meet her?
Really?
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do we navigate this? This is uncharted waters for all of us. So
Did you adopt her as a baby?
yeah, we brought her home from the hospital.
Oh, you did? Okay.
At 3 days old.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And then the adoption was final right around 14 months.
Oh, that's really neat.
Yep.
So we're all she knows, but
Mhm.
we've never shied or hid that she was adopted. So, and having and one of the cool things we decided to do is we have a party her adoption day, and it's as big as her birthday.
It's really neat.
So we don't have a party. We celebrate it because it's something that we personally celebrate. Like, we got to bring you into our home and forever.
Oh, that's really
So
nice.
it's always been an open conversation. But as she's getting older, we're just like, oh, what do we say? And I know there's experts that might have suggestions, but we're kind of like, well,
So she's actually part Filipino and part Mexican.
Oh,
And so she's Korean. She is.
yeah.
But she also recognizes
There's a little bit
there's
of a difference.
there's a difference. So I want to ask you, growing up in Utah, where it's majority white
Mhm.
people,
It was hard. It was hard. My adoptive parents are Caucasian. My mom's from Germany, or her family, and my dad's from England. So they're both tall. My mom's maiden name is Budenhagen, and my dad's a Tolman. And so Tolmans are pioneers. And so I have the pioneer ancestry on the Tolman side, and the Mayflower, ancestry on my mom's side. And so it was hard growing up. My sister and I, Victoria, who were the only Asian children in our school, really, except for a family from another country that was very traditional, generational. They would hang their laundry out there, from their roof to their fence in the front yard. And I say that only because, bless their hearts, that's the best they could do.
Yeah.
But that's what we were really often compared to, and so received a lot of prejudice, and it was tough growing up.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Provo, West Provo, until I was about 16, and then we moved to Orem.
So is your sister also adopted from Korea?
She is.
Okay.
Mhm. And then I have another sister who's a biological from my parents, and then 2 brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was tough.
So growing up, did your adopted parents, were they very open about adoption? When did you know? Did you understand what that meant?
Mhm. My parents were fantastic people. Always told us that they chose me. They chose my sister. Heavenly Father, give us the ability to be able to choose our children. We chose you. And I always felt really special growing up, knowing that I was chosen. However, as an adopted kid, there is that feeling of, who do I really belong to? And as much as your family loves you and adores you, you do feel different. And especially being maybe having a different ethnicity, I think it makes it stand out even more. My parents and my mom on Sundays would make Chinese food, just sort of celebrating the fact that my dad had served a mission in Hong Kong, and that's why they loved Asian people in general. And so they did their very best to make us feel special. But it was still difficult because we grew up in West Provo, where there was not a lot of diversity.
So what were some of the hard questions you asked your parents as you were growing up?
I remember, as a little kid, you just do bratty things. I do remember asking about my real parents, and my poor mom broke her heart, sobbing, "I am your real mother." My mom passed about 10 years ago, and I'm still so sad and embarrassed as a little child that I would do that. But I mean, it's a little kid thing. But my mom just said, "I'm your real mom. I love you. I chose you," and I felt that, and I knew that. It's just an obnoxious little kid thing to say. But I did really wonder, who do I really belong to? Because, you have little units in school, and you talk about genetics, and you can look at your family members and say, "Oh yeah, this is who I look like. This is where I get my curly hair, my blue eyes, my height." And my sister and I, even though we're both Korean, we're not biological sisters, and we did always feel different. And it was tough, and having kids tease us, and so my mom, I remember coming home saying, "Mom, I got called flat face a lot." And I remember being on the school bus, and I was probably in 3rd grade, and the bus driver had the big window, the big mirror, and her name was Chris, and kids were teasing me and just laughing. And I remember her looking up there at the bus driver, and she was just laughing. And now that would never happen now, for sure. The world has completely changed. But I just remember thinking, gosh, nobody cares. And I went home to my mom, and my mom did her best, and she said, "Tami, my name was Budenhagen. Imagine being teased about having a name of Budenhagen," And she was trying to relate to me, but I still didn't feel very protected.
Right.
There was a little boy who now I realize had a crush on me probably. You know how little kids are. But he was ruthless, so mean to me, and would say rude things, and he was just so mean most of my childhood. And my mom and his mom were really good friends. And so I'd say, Mom, why don't you say something? And she may have, and they probably just laughed it off as kids being kids. But you don't understand. But what I did learn is that, so our kids, flash forward, we have 2 children, a son and a daughter. My little girl came home from school one day and said, Mom, all the kids are calling me a shrimp, and they say I have squinty eyes. And I said, you are a shrimp. Your mom is 4'11". Your dad is 5'5". You're small. You're never going to be tall. I'm sorry. But we're short people. And you do have squinty eyes. And this is what makes you beautiful. You know, we love that about you. But as a parent that could identify with her, you know, I don't know. It's just, and it's not the parent's fault. It's not the child's fault. It's just you look around and think, who looks like me? And if no one does, it's still very isolating sometimes. Still felt very. Yeah. And then our son, I remember in kindergarten, there's this little boy that was teasing him. So back then you could just walk in the school. Yeah. So I just walked in the school, knocked on the door, told the teacher I wanted to talk to this little boy. So the teacher, she and I are friends, and she said, okay, come on out. And I said, I've heard you're kind of being mean to Ryan, but I can't imagine that you'd really do that, because I bet you and Ryan are such good friends. And he goes, oh yeah, Ryan's my really good friend. And I said, okay, well, I hope that you're good friends, because good friends say nice things about each other. And I'm grateful that you say nice things about Ryan, and I hope Ryan says nice things about you. And they became best friends, and it was great.
Wow.
But my kids at least felt like I kind of stuck up for them. Yeah. And I think I probably overreacted, you know, in doing that. And now I look back and think, oh my gosh, I would be arrested. I would be arrested, or for sure, you know, publicly shamed for that. So I did overreact a little bit.
No, you protected your child.
But I think that's the most important thing, as parents who are maybe don't share the same ethnicity. It's just that these feelings are real. And at the same time, my mom didn't want to make light of it. So I was never taught to use my race as a reason to say, oh, I didn't get invited to that party because I'm Korean, or I didn't get this because I'm Korean. My parents were very good about not letting that be an excuse or a reason for anything. And so I didn't grow up with that mentality of the world hates me because I'm different. And so as a parent, that's tricky. There's a balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that.
I think that is very important. I mean, whether or not you have a child that you've adopted that is the same ethnicity, you know, we collectively and have friends that, even if you're not adopted, having a parent that can truly understand and empathize and relate to you, right? I mean, we've talked about this, Kristen, a lot, right? Not feeling seen or heard or validated from a parent. So it sounds like your mom did a great job.
She did.
And she tried to prepare you as best she can. And gosh, kids are ruthless. I mean,
they are.
With my fake eye, you know,
exactly.
like, just kids are mean. But you've carried that around your whole life, right? And it doesn't seem like that's held you back, but it's just the reality of childhood trauma.
It is, and we all go through it. And I think whether or not because I do have another friend who has an adopted child who is African American, who's Black, and has really just embraced this whole idea of, oh, why are people treating you differently, and why are people being so mean to you? And I remember asking her, she was one of my young women in my ward, and she said, how do you handle this? And I said, well, you acknowledge it, but don't let that be your story, you know? And so anyway, this beautiful young woman has grown up and just really felt like she's been victimized her whole life, and maybe she truly has felt that way, because I don't know everything about her story, but now she feels like she needs to move to another state where she has her people. And I think that's sad too. So it's just empathy, like you said, and just doing our best to
how do you find
understand. I think it's partly personality, but it's also how we approach things as parents, I think. You know, you want to acknowledge it just like you would anything else. Okay, you're too tall. You're getting teased because you're too tall. Well, yeah, you're going to be tall. Kids are going to tease you, or you're too short, or whatever it is. But I think that my parents did do a good job in terms of telling me that no matter what, there's going to be something. And we do need to be resilient.
Yeah.
And balancing that is hard sometimes.
So kind of weave in a little bit of spirituality into this conversation, which we love to do regularly. So not everyone listening will have been adopted or have an understanding of what that feels like,
Right.
of knowing you have another family somewhere, but not knowing who they are, but having this longing, right? And I think, you know, I have a belief, we have a belief that we're all part of a bigger eternal family.
Right.
And I think each of us deep down have this just innate in our DNA, this longing to know our family and be a part of something that matters. And what we believe in our church is that we do have a heavenly family and we're all part of something bigger. And so that I don't know, there was a talk once that someone gave that, you know, it's incredible that salmon and or birds can travel thousands of miles to find their home, and it's just in their DNA. They know where home is. And no matter where they're at in the world, they can always point back and find home.
Right.
And for those listening out here that have this feeling of, gosh, I know I'm something more. There's something that I'm missing. I'm a part of something bigger. Oh, I feel like maybe whether it's a God or they don't know what to define. I think it's kind of interesting that it's a similar feeling and you had it maybe twice. Maybe you didn't ever feel like that spiritually, but you had that here on earth with your family. Do you have any analogies, similarities of feeling this and then feeling something spiritually?
Yes. So my mom was raised by parents who truly loved her, but her father was, a military veteran, had incredible PTSD from that, was raised by a mother who was an alcoholic. So my mom was raised in an environment where there was a lot of abuse. And she said she's a convert to the church. And she said when the missionaries came and talked to her and told her that she belonged to a heavenly family and had a heavenly father, um, who loved her and who would always protect her and always have her back, she said it changed how she believed and what she believed about herself. Because she, even though she had her biological family that she was raised with and she knew they loved her, she didn't feel that protection and that completeness until she was introduced to the gospel and until she was baptized and joined this church. And so I've always remembered that story because we do have this sense of we need to know who we are. We need to belong. And so during my little adoption journey, as a kid, I do remember thinking I would love to find my biological family. So I have a sister, like I said, who's also adopted. She has no desire to connect with her biological family.
Well,
I do. And so I remember talking to my mom about it, and my mom was so sweet. And she said, Tammy, let's find your family. I want you to find your family. This would be so great. But in my heart, I knew that if I did, it would still kind of break my mom's heart a little bit.
yeah.
And as a adoptive mom, because it's kind of this feeling of course I want you to feel whole and complete, but was I not enough?
Yeah.
And I remember my mom telling me, Tammy, I want to help you. I want to help you. But I knew that if I tried too hard to find her, it would be heartbreaking a little bit to my mom.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of interesting. So a year after my mom passed, I was, this is a corny story, but I was taking out the trash. It was Christmas Eve. And I was sad. I was missing her. I look up in the stars and I'm just like, what is going on in my life? I just feel so down about multiple things. And I remember getting this feeling from my mom saying, you are not going to believe what's going to happen this year. And it was that complete sentence thought, Tammy, you're not going to believe what's going to happen, in this enthusiasm and excitement. And so I got emotional and I was just holding the trash and crying and just going, what? This is corny. And so I go inside and so that night our oldest son and his wife announced that they were pregnant. And we didn't know. And so we're thinking, oh my gosh. And I said, oh my gosh, Mom, you're really there. This is amazing.
Same night.
The same night.
Wow.
I thought, this has never happened to me. I've never had a direct answer like this. But then later that year, in the month, my sister and I had submitted DNA tests to 23andMe and to Ancestry because we thought it would be fun. Let's just kick it around. My mom had passed. I felt like maybe the timing was okay. No hits, nothing. And then so I had a hit that said, you have a first cousin somewhere. Sorry, from 23andMe. And I thought, oh, okay, we'll see. So I messaged it in the app and said, hey, I might be your cousin. Nothing. No response. And so that a couple weeks later, messaged it again, no response. Well, my daughter-in-law is from South Korea and she speaks Korean. And so she said, Tami, maybe this person doesn't speak English. Let me message her. So she messaged her and got an immediate response. And the woman was living in California with her family. Her husband, they were from South Korea, but had moved temporarily to California. And she said, oh, I might have an aunt. I might have heard about a story of an adoption to America, maybe kind of just dancing around it. Anyway, I found out that it was a true DNA match and I was able to connect. But it was all in that same year. And so it's crazy. So I guess my point was, you say, is there a spiritual sort of connection to this whole family, create a wonderful web of belonging? There really is. And I really believe that it took my mom's passing to be able to orchestrate that on the other side for me, to have this great experience. But it was just the coolest thing to have this feeling of really hearing her voice say, Tami, you are not going to believe it.
Yeah.
Just, you're not going to believe what's going to happen, and just this pure excitement and everything that year changed. It was crazy.
Yeah.
A lot of things changed. We became grandparents, connected with my biological family, and I got elected as mayor that year too.
Oh, wow.
So
That
it
is
was crazy.
So you say your daughter-in-law had
Uh-huh.
reached out in Korean.
Yes, and
What
so
happened?
well, so my daughter-in-law had reached out and typed a message in Korean, and this woman, so they got on a phone call, and so later, I think it was a month later, my daughter and my son, they were living with us. So she comes running upstairs, Tami, we found your family, and I said, what in the world are you talking about? And this was, late at night because the time difference, and she said, this woman messaged back, and Tami, she's your aunt. And apparently the woman had shown her kids because her son was taking a biology class. He was a senior. And he said, Mom, I want a DNA kit for Christmas. And she said, we're not going to waste our time and money on that. We know who we are. We don't, why would we want that? And he said, no, Mom, I really want a DNA kit. And so they did the DNA kit, made it public, and then the match happened. And she said, I showed my kids that this thing about some weirdo cousin in America, and my kids said, no, Mom, this is real. You need to message this back. She thought it was sort of a scam. She wasn't sure. And they said, no, this is real. This person is related to us. And so because my daughter-in-law reached out in Korean, she was able to feel like maybe this was more legit and not just some weirdo kind of thing. And so she called and they had these conversations, and it's pretty cool. Really, really neat.
No, I know.
Yeah, so
I'm sorry.
yeah, I don't know how much you want to.
No, all of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Keep going.
So, okay. So during this time, so we had this match, which was awesome. And then I got another match, a second match with the first cousin. And I thought, okay, this is very strange. So the second match was a first cousin. Okay, the first match was the second cousin. The second match was a first cousin. And it said that our moms are sisters. And I thought, oh, shoot, my mom's a prostitute. Sorry. I know. I thought, oh, great. She lives in a brothel and her sister's in a brothel. And now I don't really want to find my relatives because I don't want that history. I don't want to be the daughter of. Anyway, I mean, your mind goes to crazy places, right? It really does, you guys. It's crazy.
Did you have a moment
Um,
of like, am I wanting to move forward?
I had a weird moment. So prior to this whole DNA thing, there's a woman who was the president of South Korea. Okay, and I had looked her up and thought, oh, our stories are pretty similar. She had been rumored to have a baby, and it was this big thing. And this was before she got arrested. So she did some bad things. So then I was happy I wasn't related to her. But to the point of knowing who you are, sorry, I'm a little scattered. But for a little bit, I thought maybe this woman who was the president of South Korea was my mother.
Wow.
Okay, and
You went
so
from prostitute.
so first of all, I went from president to prostitute. Because at first, a couple years prior to this, I thought, oh, maybe I'm related to her, and I'm sending pictures to all my friends. Do I look like her? All this stuff, and it really changed who I thought I was. So I guess going back to my mom's story of realizing that she's a child of God, this thinking that I was related to the president of South Korea changed what I believed about myself. And I thought, you know what, Tami, maybe you should be in politics. Maybe you should run for mayor or city council. Maybe that's in your DNA. Maybe that's really who you are. Okay, so my head gets really huge, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is my legacy. This is amazing. And then it turns out that wasn't the case, obviously, because I met my actual family. And then so my first cousin, so the hit in 23andMe was first cousins. Your mothers must be sisters. And I thought, oh, shoot, I'm not the president's daughter. I am a prostitute's daughter. And my kids are just going, you're such a wacko. But so I meet this cousin. So I have a sister whose husband was in the Air Force, my third sister, Tasha. And they were in San Antonio. And this woman, my first cousin, also lived in San Antonio. She's an orthodontist. And so when we were visiting my sister for Thanksgiving, we actually had an opportunity to meet this first cousin and her family. And she was adopted also as a baby and wanted to find her biological mother. And she'd been to Korea twice trying to find her biological relatives. And she was married to a man from Vietnam, just like me. And she had 2 kids, just like me. And we're 10 years apart. And so I thought, okay, what is going on with this crazy situation? What's going on? So she'd gone to Korea a couple times, and so she was delightful. We still stay in touch. And so I said, okay, well, maybe we should go to Korea. So my daughter-in-law was, from Korea. So when they decided to get married, we went to Korea to meet her family because we wanted our son to be able to meet them. We wanted to meet her parents and stuff. So we went to Korea, and I dropped off a DNA test at the police station because apparently that's where they keep DNA records. In Korea, DNA testing is not popular in Asia. It's just not taken off like it has in the United States. I think a lot of reasons perhaps are because a lot of children are adopted. And Korea for a while was a very open country to international adoption. And then they realized they were told that they were exporting their children and their culture. And so there was some shame. So then they closed adoption, international adoption, and now they've opened it up. So there's a little history there. Anyway, so we dropped off DNA, no hits. And then a couple years later, get this hit with a DNA relative, and my daughter-in-law was able to facilitate conversations. So then we said, okay, this is great. She was talking to my Korean family at this point, my Korean mother. What had happened was in Korea, the men have to serve in the military for 3 years. She'd met this man, my father, who was 8 years older than her. When she found out she was pregnant, he was basically deploying. So they'd met, they were dating, fall in love. He has to deploy. Her stepmother, her mother died when she was young. My biological mother lost her mother when she was a young child, like 6. Her father remarried to this woman who'd never had children and didn't really like her very much. I guess they had a rough relationship. And so when the stepmother found out that my mother was pregnant, she said, I'm kicking you out of the home. And so my father's family had connections with the Korean government, and they said, you can have a job working at the Capitol, but you can't bring a baby. So you've got to get rid of this kid. And so my mother has me, and her sister-in-law, my father's sister, is there with her. And my father was also there with her, and she had me, but didn't want to see me. And so the doctor told her that she'd had a son. Because my mom was really sad because she figured if I was a girl, I would not be adopted. Because Asia still really, this is the 1970s, prided themselves in men and male children carrying on the legacy. And so the doctor said, my mom, when I talked to her and met her, she said, I always knew you were a girl. But the doctor told her I was a boy. Wow. And so her future sister-in-law said, yeah, you had a son. Don't worry. There's a family that's going to adopt him. He's going to be okay. Don't worry. Move on with your life. This is just a blink in your life. So my father goes and serves in the military for 3 years. He came back and married my mother, which was great. And then they had 2 sons. And so I found all this when we went to Korea and met them. And it's interesting because my 2 brothers are younger. Obviously, I'm the oldest. And they said, Mom would watch TV and commercials about adoption would come up and she would start sobbing and hide in her room for days. And as little kids, We just thought she was weird. Once we got a little older and we're in high school, we thought there was something really wrong. And so we confronted our parents and said, what in the world? What's going on? And they said, our family has brought shame to our family for generations. You know, God doesn't like us. He's punishing us, all these things because we gave our baby away.
Oh.
So my Korean brothers, I guess, were brought up in this element of our family has been shamed and we've done something very bad against God.
Yeah.
And against humanity. But they also thought I was a son. So kind of funny. So when this first cousin, my cousin connects them and says, hey, there's this girl in America who thinks that you're her mom. And my mom, I apparently just started crying and said, I always knew I had a daughter. I knew it was a girl. I know. And she didn't know all these years for sure. And she said, I knew I had a daughter. And so my brothers, we did a FaceTime call. And my brothers, that was a first initial. It was this conversation between my daughter-in-law and my biological family, my mother. And then we did a FaceTime call. So anyway, before that though, the first question was, how tall is Tami?
Oh.
And my daughter-in-law said she's 4'11", and they're like, okay, she's probably related. Because Koreans are actually pretty tall. My daughter-in-law is tall. She's like 5'6", and our son's about 5'6". They're about the same height. And her brother is 6'1", and her dad is 6'1" or 6'2", and her uncles are all really tall. I just got the short genes somehow. But my whole Korean family is very short. And so it was funny. So the first question was, how tall is this woman? And then what does she want from us? Because they just weren't sure, you know, if I'm trying to scam them from America.
Yeah.
So we did this FaceTime call, and you guys, it's hard to describe. We have some videos of us interacting in our first call, and it's really fun. But to be able to see mannerisms that it's just hard to explain. And so to understand your daughter maybe a little bit better, you know, my siblings would be able to look to my parents and, oh yeah, mom does this and dad does this and I walk just like dad and my facial expressions are just like mom. I never had that. And so I always felt really alone until I had my own children and saw some similarities, but they were still half my husband. So I just felt alone in this world, even though I'm grateful I was raised in the gospel. I used to go around singing the song, You're Not Alone. And my dad was like, you are seriously weird. But I just really yearned for this connection, even though I have a Heavenly Father and my Savior, and I'm so grateful for that. But I just didn't feel this like I belonged. And so anyway, we're doing this FaceTime call, and my brothers, I'm looking at them, and our mannerisms are identical. The way we move our lips. And my kids are just dying, and my family is dying. Just going.
All there on FaceTime with.
They're all there, and then my family, my kids and my husband, we're all standing there, you know, behind the iPad.
Oh.
And my brothers are talking, and my brother's like, exactly the same mannerisms that I do. It was like looking in a mirror at my male self. And then I have a brother who wears glasses, and I said, take your glasses off. And he did, and identical. You guys, we look so much alike. It's very strange. It was just so life-changing.
I know, but what were your thoughts or your feelings as you saw them?
It was so overwhelming. I mean, at first of all, they were so apologetic. And they kept saying, we're so sorry, we're sinners, but God hates us, you know, and I told them, look, you've given me a life that I never would have had. And so I tried to explain that to them, that I am so grateful. I did not want to find this family so that I could be angry.
Yeah.
I wanted to find her because I was so grateful. And that is why my podcast is called Happy, Grateful, Blessed, because honestly, my life has been so blessed through all the hard things and all the great things that I've endured. I remember laying in bed as a little kid. I heard that if you go like this and say a prayer, it like spiritually connects you. I don't know. I remember reading this, or someone told me.
I've actually said that too.
So I'd lay in bed at night and pray, please help me find my family. Please help me. And I remember doing that for years and years. Not because I lacked family, not because I didn't love my siblings and wasn't loved by my family, but I just really felt this connection. And I remember telling my husband, I have brothers. And I have two little brothers that I'm adopted. They're my adopted brothers that I love. but I knew I had brothers.
Really?
Yes, it's just something I've always known. And I have a sister, like I said, who's also adopted. She has no close DNA matches. Like her most distant relative is 25 times removed, so it's interesting how I think that Heavenly Father puts those yearnings in our hearts for a reason.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and I tell this story and I do it as a cautionary tale because I know it doesn't turn out this well for some people.
Yeah.
For example, my cousin. So basically my mother and her sister are 10 years apart and me and my cousin are 10 years apart. And my mother had her situation. Her younger sister was dating a boy or a man that was a part of a gang, just a really rough family. And so when she got pregnant, the family basically took the baby from her. She said she has this baby, she goes to sleep, you're exhausted, wakes up and the baby's gone. And so this poor woman, she became a heavy drinker. She has psoriasis. She's got lots of physical issues. She was very sad. It caused a lot of mental and emotional issues in her life. And it was very shameful for her. And so she didn't tell anybody. And so where my parents knew about this, it was a different situation. And she grew up feeling so ashamed. And so then this woman, my aunt, gets married, has a son, but had never told them about her past. And so me and my first cousin are talking, okay, let's go to Korea. Let's go meet the family. This is going to be so great. Her mother did not want to see her.
Oh.
Because she was afraid of being disowned by her husband.
Yeah.
And since they have connected, and it is wonderful, but it was a longer process. And so I guess as I, excitedly tell my story, I want to remember and be sensitive to so many people who will not ever probably know theirs.
I know, and I want to ask you a personal question. Yeah, I find myself getting emotional because of our daughter. And I know she has the longing of wanting to see and to meet her biological mother. And she also has 3 half-siblings that we know of.
Oh.
Her biological mother, she also came from fostering, from the foster system. So I have the worry that if she tries to meet her, that her bio mom won't want anything to do with her or won't want to meet her. And then
That's a double.
as a mother, how do I help her?
Yes.
So, I'm worried. I get concerned for her because I want her to feel
Right.
that sense of belonging.
Oh, you're a wonderful mom, obviously. Because you're right, so many stories don't have happy endings. I've talked to so many people who've said, I wanted to meet my family, and then I find out that my dad's a coke addict and my mother is in jail. And, it's just these horrible stories. Or now I find this family and they want me to support them.
Yeah.
And they feel like I owe them something. And so my heart goes out to you. I don't know.
Unreal. There is no right or wrong answer, I'm sure.
But it's a double. So in talking to my cousin, she was very, very hurt that her mom didn't want to see her, especially since she'd actually put a lot more effort into it than I had. She'd been to Korea several times looking for her biological family. And we finally find this connection, and my family's excited, and her mom says, no, I can't because then my husband will leave me and I'll ruin my life. And so she felt double rejection. It's one thing to be rejected for whatever reasons, and then to be rejected out of choice is very difficult. And so my cousin, I think, really struggled with that for a couple years. She did go back and meet her biological mother, and she had just returned, and we were talking, and she said, I've just got so much to process. I need some time. And I haven't been able to circle back to her yet because there's a lot there.
There's a lot there.
On one hand, your daughter, I'm sure she's so grateful for her situation. But what else is hard is, like, I grew up, and my grandfather, bless his heart, would say, Tami, you are so lucky you're not in Korea. You would be working in the rice fields. You would be. So I just had this really negative view of Korea in general, and it's not at all like that. One thing that was really healing for me is being able to go see my birth country. So if you guys ever have an opportunity, and I know your daughter is, from multiple ethnicities.
She was born in Santa Barbara, California.
Oh, was she? Okay.
That's where, she was born. Her bio mom was also raised.
Okay, so she's from the United States.
City, yes.
Her biological dad's from Mexico and was deported to Mexico.
Oh, okay.
And he never took a paternity test, so we don't
even know.
I don't really know if that's our dad, but that's who they say it is. So
I just, for me, it was really healing to be able to see where I came from.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've been to California, so I'm sure she's seen California. But I mean,
So she still has questions like, well, I want to go to Mexico. I want to know, where, you tell me I'm Mexican, Filipino. So what is
She loves Mexican DNA, right? She loves Mexico.
I mean, that is also real. And I think it would probably be really healing for her to be able to go to Mexico.
Yeah.
And it really helps you to realize that we are blessed for different reasons. And not that Mexico is a bad place, but America is a wonderful opportunity that maybe people in Mexico don't have, or people even in South Korea don't have. And so, but my heart is with you. All I can tell you is I truly believe that Heavenly Father has a plan for us.
Yeah.
And whatever that plan is, it will manifest. It will happen. I know that not everybody gets a happy ending.
Yeah.
Where they get the resolution and they get to know the answers.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of sadness that can come from that. My sister, who was adopted, who doesn't really, she says she doesn't want to find her family. I know in her heart, how could she not? But I think she just feels such a deep level of rejection. And she also, and she'll probably listen to this, and I've told her this, so I'm not talking about her. She's also not very active religiously.
Yeah.
And I really think that that's where having a shared belief that Christ's atonement can really fill in those gaps for us, where the feeling of belonging or the feeling of heartache or feeling of disappointment or any of those gaps can really heal us.
Yeah.
If we let him.
Yeah.
And my sister, she's not there yet.
yeah.
And I wish that she could get there.
It takes some time.
It will take time, maybe.
And I think what's interesting in the grand scheme of God's timing, 10 years, 30 years, it doesn't matter to him, right? And to him, it's just a blink. But to us, it's a lifetime. And it can feel really long. I'm curious, did you feel like the loop was closed when you finally met your biological? Did you feel like a sense, could you like sigh of relief? Or what was that? Was there a completion? What was there? Obviously, it was, I'm sure, just insane to meet two new brothers you hadn't met. And was your father there?
So my father had passed the year before.
Okay, so he had passed away. Did you feel like those missing puzzle pieces were found? Do you still feel something missing?
It's really difficult to explain how it completed me. It makes you feel so, especially someone who, and maybe your daughter is similar to me. Like, I'm a little intense sometimes. I'm a truth seeker. I tell me this, and then I have to prove that you're wrong or right. I'm like that. It's just my personality. I just like to make sure that I know for sure what's going on. For me, it completed me in a way that I can't even describe. And I kept thinking, okay, Heavenly Father, why am I getting blessed like this? Obviously, it's something I've sought, but why now? Why is this so important for me now at this age, in my 50s, to have this blessing happen? Why didn't it happen when I was a high schooler, a young adult? Why now? And I really don't know, except that so we have two children. One of our kids, so our daughter looks a lot like my husband and his family. My son looks a lot like me. And he served his mission in Vietnam, where my husband was born and his family was born. So Ryan looks very Korean, though, not Chinese. And my daughter looks more Chinese like her dad and his family. So for Alexa, she's always kind of felt like, I knew who I am. For Ryan, who's also very much a truth seeker, a fact checker, kind of intense kid like me, it really bugged him because he'd go to Vietnam and people were like, you're not from Vietnam. What are you talking about? Because he had Vietnamese blood at the time he served his mission, he was allowed to be in the country because Vietnam had some quirky rules about that. They have since lowered that standard. But so it was cool that Ryan had Vietnamese ancestry, so he was allowed to be there. But then he's in Vietnam being rejected by Vietnamese people because he doesn't look like he belongs there. That would be LA. And then here in America, in the United States at Davis High, he was very popular, had tons of friends, but also didn't feel like he belonged here. Wow. And so I don't even know that it was for me. I think it was also for my kids, for Ryan, to be able to know who he is. He married a beautiful, beautiful woman from South Korea. And she is so grounded in who she is. And my daughter married a wonderful kid from Davis High who's blonde and green eyes and just, and he knows who he is. And so now our son knows who he is. And it really it's a completion that I can't describe. It's like, I don't know, it's just filling in the blanks. And I don't think it would have mattered if my mother had been in jail or something. I'm grateful that she's a good person and she's not. But it still answers that question that I'm sorry. I wish I could answer for everyone. I wish I could give this gift for everybody who wants to know, because it's just that nagging thing in the back of your mind. You want to know who you are. Like you said, that is a God-given desire to know who we are. And that's why we're so grateful to have the gospel, because we do know where we come from. We know where we're going. We know who we are, but in a very literal, mortal sense. Yeah, it's healing to have those answers.
Yeah, and I have no doubt our daughter was always meant to be out of our family, with how it was a holiday weekend. She was born December 30th. And so the social worker was on call, and the one social worker that I knew, that I had told her, if you ever get a baby girl, you better call me. And she was the one social worker working that holiday weekend that ended up calling and saying, guess what? I have a baby girl. Do you want to come and meet her? Oh, and
we felt love immediately.
Yeah, so she's always been supposed to be part of our family. Yeah. And I hope that she can feel that and know that as she grows up. But I know deep down there is going to be these same questions for her that she has. And I want to be able to say, all right, God, is this the right time? Because I think timing is a huge part in her being able to go out and seek and search and meet who wants to meet her. And
it's so true.
So I'm just, I don't know, trying to navigate it.
Have you guys done DNA testing and things like that? Not yet. Okay.
She's 9.
So she's pretty young. Yeah, she's young.
Trying to figure out when,
right,
age appropriate.
Right, for sure.
I don't know.
But one thing that's interesting about your story is we know God answers multiple prayers and in different times, but perhaps he gave some mercy to your mother, your adoptive mother.
Right.
Maybe her heart couldn't have handled you finding your family while she was alive. And I'm sure there's a part of you that wishes she could have met them too, right? But in his grace, maybe he answered multiple prayers in his own way.
You know what? I love how you stated that, because I really believe that that's true. My mom 100% wanted me to be able to find my family and be able to close that and get that closure. At the same time, I think it would have truly broken her heart. She'd always say, Tami, I want to thank this woman for raising you and for having you. At the same time, knowing my mom, she still would have felt like maybe she wasn't enough for some reason,
Yeah, and I think those two things can
coexist, right? Exactly. But I do think it's grace. But I also think having her on the other side working for me, there's magic, right? My biological father had also passed. I kind of feel like maybe up there, I don't think we're floating around on clouds. I think we're working.
Yeah.
I think we're working to benefit our families for generations and blessing their lives when the time is right. And so for your daughter, I hope someday she has an opportunity. But she's sure lucky, and blessed, and you guys are as well. And that's what my parents would always really emphasize is, yes, I'm blessed, but they were blessed by me. And I always felt so loved and so cherished knowing that they chose me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So do you still stay in contact to this day?
We do. In fact, we have a messaging app that we use. So at first, the family was going to come visit. So I have two brothers. One has his own business. One works for LG. So the brother that works for LG comes to the United States once in a while. And neither one of them have, great English, but the LG brother, I think, speaks a little bit better. But they're both trying to learn English now. So they were going to come over, but my biological mother has chronic congestion, or what's the word? Bronchitis or something. And so the doctor said she can't fly that far. It'll be difficult for her. So I'll have to go probably back to Korea to see them again. But it was cute. When I first met them, so much fun. She's just, oh my baby, because in her mind, I'm still
Her baby.
a baby, a newborn baby. And it was so cute. We went to their house and she's pulling stuff out of her drawers, like that's still new, giving to me, like I'm talking like underwear, nightgowns, stuff like that she had purchased for herself, I'm sure, and for future use. And she's pulling out them and she's trying to give me her stuff. And I'm like, it's okay. You don't need to give me anything. It's fine. But just so cute and just trying to be as a mom would.
Yeah.
Others, you just want to try to stitch up. It was cute.
That's amazing. One thing that Chris and I are huge proponents of and believe everyone should participate in is therapy.
Yes.
And one thing
Therapy's good.
Kristen and I went through recently, it was for me, kind of overcoming some of that childhood bullying that I had as a child with my eye. And as you mentioned, kids are brutal, brutally honest, brutally mean, all of that, right? But one thing that kind of changed me was being able to talk to myself, my child self, as an adult. What would I tell that child? And I want to ask that question to you.
The Gestalt.
If you could look back,
yes,
that little girl, unsure of who she was, sorry.
No, I know it's emotional.
Questioning her identity, questioning where she belonged. What would you tell that girl? What would you do to her? What would you give her?
I actually went through this. I went to therapy, and I did do this exercise, and it is really powerful because you picture your childhood self, and you do have this conversation saying, okay, this is what I want you to know about your future. Just that you're worthy. You're worthy of being loved, and that you will be loved, and that you are loved, and the things that you go through are preparing you for something better, and that you have value. As a kid, I really felt like my parents were great. I'm the oldest, right? I'm bossy, but I always felt like I was on the periphery, looking in, watching other people live their lives. And I felt like I had to meet all these high expectations in order to be good enough. And really, I wanted someday my biological family out there to see me somewhere doing something and going, oh my gosh, we gave her away. And look what she grew up to become. And because my personality is a little feisty, I guess, and just that she was worth loving, and she was worth protecting, and she was worth sacrificing for. And I don't blame them for giving me away. Yeah. Now that I know the story, I understand, and I do, and I'm an adult and I'm a mom. I get it. At the same time, there's always that part of you that goes, why'd you throw me away? Was I not good enough? Why couldn't you have worked hard to keep me? Why didn't you want me? And no matter what our story is, part of us, that little child, still feels that way. And so I did have an opportunity to do that several times in therapy. And it's a really neat healing process to be able to just put your arms around your younger self and say, you are not going to believe what will happen to your life and all the really incredible experiences that you're going to someday have. So just hang in there, keep your chin up, be proud of who you are, be confident, have faith. And I think that is the biggest thing. I'm so grateful that I was blessed with parents who taught me the gospel, and that there's a plan, and that God's plan and his timing is intentional. Because otherwise, I think I would have felt so worthless. The kids at school are telling you you're a loser, and your inner dialogue of someone gave you away, they threw you away, you're a loser. I was in an orphanage that was domestic for a year, not adopted, because I was a girl in Korea, and girls weren't popular then. They wanted boys. So then I was transferred to an international adoption agency, and then I was adopted. And so I'm just grateful for God's timing in that.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful to be able to be now in my chair saying, your life's going to be okay. It's going to turn out. And we never know what the future will be like.
Yeah.
But I do have hope, and happiness is something that I innately feel, but it's really easy to get down. And so that's the other reason for the whole podcast. It just keeps that in my mind. I'm happy because I'm grateful. And I'm blessed because I'm grateful for, all of those things tie in together. And so,
Well,
Yeah.
I have to just
sorry.
wrap. Or you have
I just want to know, you have biological family and you have adopted family. Like, what is
We have a lot of family.
mean
Yeah.
to you?
Family are people that have your back.
Yeah.
They'll love you. We're super lucky. So my mom passed 10 years ago. My dad got remarried. He lives in the Philippines with his family. And then I have my siblings who live, all over. And then I have my husband's adopted family and his biological family.
I love that.
And then we have our family. And so I'm just so grateful to be surrounded by people who love me and who I love and feel supported by. So
Yeah. I just to tie everything together, the theme of obviously our podcast is like a diamond. Now knowing you a little bit, I don't know you very well. It is clear to me that all of those hard things that you went through as a child, all of the questioning and the doubt and, 50 years worth of searching has truly shaped you into and polished you into that diamond that you're supposed to be. It's clear that you're a force to be reckoned with. And the feistiness and your desire to serve and give back, all of that is because of the things you went through. And it's hard to tell a child who's suffering or going through that, just wait, there's a purpose in all of it. And you can't see it, and it hurts, and it's hot, and it's uncomfortable.
Right.
All of it is for a divine reason to turn you into something special and powerful. And that's what we're trying to share.
Thank you.
The hope for all of this is that someone, gosh, I cry more than you do. Someone listening that's just questioning who they are and their identity. Are they worth something to somebody, to anybody? I hope these words resonate, and I hope it gives them hope.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you. I will tell you something funny. I was telling my sister, people are so mean in politics. And she goes, Tami, you can take it. You were bullied as a kid. You're prepared for this. This is nothing. And honestly, it's true. It is true. I read comments on Facebook and I'm like, meh, hit me with something good, So you're right. It's preparation, and I appreciate the fact that you guys are focusing on this. I think so many of us we all have a story. And the more we get to know those stories, the more they excite us. I used to be teased because I was different. Now I'm recognizable because I'm different, just like you, right? I'm remembered because I'm different. Yes, and I don't have to wear a tag that says I'm mayor of Kaysville. Everyone knows this because I don't look like everyone else. And so for your daughter, if I could say anything to these beautiful young children who might look a little bit different or might feel like they don't fit in, that is their superpower. And that's what makes them stand out and be strong and special. And fitting in isn't good. Standing out is, and just standing tall and being confident. And so, yeah, it's really neat. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, you guys.
This time we've enjoyed the story, and thank you for gracing our audience with what it means to you to be a part of a family and belong.
Well, thank you. I love your podcast.
Thank you.
I love it. And you guys are neat people. Thank you.
Thank you.